Hello and welcome. This is Lauren O'Callaghan, Entertainment Editor for Games Radar Plus, and I'm joined by Leon Hurley.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking about Star Trek Discovery, specifically Episode 9, the mid-season finale, and what it means for the second half of the season.
Big spoiler warning, obviously, because we're going to be talking about everything that happens in the show, so if you don't want to know what that is, then turn off now.
Right, so first big question. This is kind of a question about the entire first half of the season, but what is Lorca's deal with Burnham?
It's weird, isn't it? Because there's... The first time it really comes to the fore, isn't it, is about, I think, 4 or 5, when he tells Ash to Tyler to bring her back, and he thinks it's the shuttle, and then he's like, no, I mean Tyler. And then he didn't want to let her go on the away mission to the Klingon ship, and he's so free and easy, like throwing people under the bus to get his way, that it's odd that he's kind of not using her the way he uses everyone else. Yeah,
and that was exactly her point in that episode.
Yeah.
And he's weirdly protective of her, and it's so out of character for him. And even to begin with, the whole fact that he brought her on board was kind of odd. You know, she is a criminal. She should really be in prison.
Yeah.
That was weird enough, but you could sort of be like, well, he'll just use anything he can to win this war. That makes sense for his character. But he's actually being really protective of her as well. And it's like you say, it's so unlike him. I just don't know where it's coming from.
See, I wonder if he knows something other people, no one else does. And there is a slight theory that there's a mirror universe version of Lorca, because there's a bit where he sees reflection in a window, and every time you see a reflection in Star Trek, people go, oh, mirror universe. But maybe he knows something, maybe he is a mirror universe Lorca, and he knows something about Burnham that we don't know, and that he's got some kind of insider knowledge from another dimension. But he does seem to be aware, like, if it was something Burnham had done, Starfleet would know about it. He seems to have some hook on a thing that is just not known to anyone else.
Yeah. I wonder whether there's some kind of like personal connection between them. Like, the only thing I can think of is that they're perhaps like related distantly, because obviously she wasn't raised by a human family. Both of her parents died. And the only explanation I can think of for this like really almost overprotective attitude towards her is either, like you say, he knows something we don't and she's going to be really, really important to something that happens in the future, or he genuinely cares about her for some other reason, like, I don't know, like she's his niece or something, and she doesn't know, but he does, and that's why he sought her out and has tried to protect her.
See, I don't think he is protecting her. I think he needs her for something that isn't happening yet.
You're so suspicious of Lorca.
Well, you just think about like what he did with Cornwall, Admiral Cornwall. Like as soon as she was kind of like, maybe you shouldn't be in charge, he was like, hey, go meet the Klingons, and like just got rid of her like in an instant.
Yeah.
And the whole sleeping with the phaser under the bed. I mean, that was one of the things towards the sort of the mirror dimension theory, apart from the reflection, is she was just kind of like, who the hell are you? This is not you, kind of thing. But like in the original series where Kirk and Spock encounter like the mirror universe, Kirk talks about how like assassination is like a very viable promotion technique, and so that sort of sleeping with a phaser under the bed ties into if you were from that kind of world. But yeah, I don't think he cares about Burnham in any kind of family way or any kind of like affection. I think he's just... Everyone to him is useful for something, and she is useful for something we don't know about yet.
It certainly would tie in with his character more, I think, but they're obviously holding this back for the second half of the season, so we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, she'll be the key for something. Now, the second question is, why does L'Rell want to protect Tyler? So L'Rell obviously is the white-suited Klingon with the bloody tips on her collar, and Tyler obviously is our mysterious prisoner that was rescued along with Mudd. She's quite fond of him.
Yeah, I mean, this question relates directly to something that happened in episode 9, which is when she says, I won't let them hurt you. But it really, again, is a question that we've had throughout the season, because there does seem to be some connection there.
Yeah.
Tyler obviously has quite an emotional reaction to her because she's his torturer, but it actually ties into a theory about the show that a few people have been mentioning, that Tyler is actually Vok in disguise, who L'Rell was his second in command, and we haven't seen him since Tyler's entered the TV show.
Yeah. And we saw like L'Rell saying that she had a way for him to sort of achieve his goals, but he had to sacrifice everything he knew. And then suddenly Tyler appears, Vok disappears. I don't think Tyler, if this theory is true that he is a spy, I don't think he knows he is a spy, because these are why he's getting these flashbacks. He's been conditioned, or some kind of hypnotism or mental kind of profiling, so he believes he's Tyler, because that'd be the perfect cover.
Yeah.
So the flashbacks we're seeing of her like taking special attention to him is actually when he and her were going out as Klingons, and the torture stuff is a surgery that he had to become a spy. So I think that's kind of they've worked it really well into kind of this idea of he's a traumatized prisoner and he's terrified of her. In fact, it's actually his Klingon subconscious is trying to poke his human sort of disguise and go, "Oh, this is stuff that happened."
Yeah. And it's almost like the showrunners they're trying to tell us that this theory is correct, because I can't think of another explanation for why L'Rell would say that she would protect Tyler. That it's really only does make sense if he's Vok. It's
interesting as well, like when he goes in at the end of towards the end of the episode, when he goes and sees her and he just immediately falls to his knees and like, "What do you want from me?" or something. Like she gets up like she was expecting him. There's no kind of like, "What is this strange human doing in my prison cell?" She's just kind of like, "Don't worry, it's fine." Like this, she doesn't bat an eyelid that he's come to see her, even though he has no idea apparently who she is.
Well, he does know who she is, because obviously to him he's like a torturer.
But he's aware that there's something there that he doesn't understand.
Yeah, he definitely knows he's missing something, because he says to her, "What have you done to me?" I guess the only other explanation is that actually perhaps, although I do think this is unlikely, she does actually feel some romantic feelings for this human prisoner, to the point where she would protect him. Although what she thinks he would need protecting from on a Starfleet ship isn't exactly clear. I guess we do have to consider that that's a possibility, that everything that Tyler said is in fact true.
Yeah. And
that, she cares about him even though he is the enemy. But it still doesn't really answer where Vok's been, because...
No, well, I mean, she's the other thing. Like, so we don't know where Vok's gone. He's just disappeared, and she said, like, I got this plan. You'll have to give up everything. And she's like a house of spies, isn't it? She's like a house of sort of
lies,
lies and deceit, whatever. Yeah. So you don't know how much of this is like what she's intended all along, and how much of it maybe has gone wrong. Because it seems weird that they accidentally found her like in the dead body room, where they like that didn't seem like something you'd plan to happen. So did she mean to end up on the Enterprise as Discovery? Sorry, has this been like a happy accident, or did she always mean to get nearly killed, thrown in the body room, and then found by the cloaking mission that they didn't know was going to happen? Like,
it does seem like there's been a lot of coincidences within her storyline, especially when she originally went to Admiral Cornwell and said that she wanted to defect.
Yeah.
To me, it was almost like her mission with Vok, she assumed it hadn't succeeded. Perhaps she was waiting for some kind of sign from him that she never got. And so she thought, right, that's not happening. I need to find a way out of here. It still doesn't really explain how, she just happened to have been thrown in the cell with the Admiral, which is the one Tyler and Burnham broke into.
Actually, it's reminding me, I was just about to say as well, like, obviously, one of the things that happens a lot in Star Trek, was like, we've got life signs. Like, sure, if that was like the body room, wouldn't somebody go, we've got 2 not dead people in here? Because they always, like, that's the thing that always gives away, like, in Star Trek missions, people kind of go, we have an unexplained life sign, and that's when they find the stowaway or they find the invaders. And they made a big point of these life sign masking things, which someone else pointed out as well, that like obviously that from a tactical point of view that means they can't be detected on the ship, but it would also mask Tyler maybe not showing up as human. But then wouldn't that have happened anyway on the Discovery? They would have noticed a Klingon life sign. There's a lot of things where, like, if it goes one way, then there's a lot of questions to answer.
We just don't really know at this point. It could go either way. I think if it turns out that he isn't a Klingon in disguise, though, L'Rell's actions need to be explained some other way, because her behaviour towards him is quite unusual.
Yeah.
So the third and final big question we have about episode 9 is, where has the Discovery ended up? Because this half of the first season ended with them effectively lost in space. And I think it's fairly obvious where they are.
Well, Jonathan Frakes, who was William Riker, who's involved in the show, did say that the mirror universe is coming at some point. I always want to say mirror dimension, but it's mirror universe. So that seems to be where we're going. But Stamets has been sort of you had that moment in the previous episode where he said, "What are you doing here, Captain?" to Tilly, which was such a specific thing to her, like that. And it's now like at the end when he falls on the floor and his eyes are white, he talks about being able to see all these infinite possibilities. So he can basically see like the multiverse. He can see all, maybe at a quantum level, he can see for a fraction of a second, he can see all possible realities. So the mirror dimension is obviously where they're going to go, but they could play around with a bit more because they've sort of opened up numerous universes. And there's a reverse universe. There's loads of different universes in Star Trek. It's like if you look on the wiki page, there's just every time they need a new story sort of trick, they come up with a new universe. But the mirror universe is the one that's been specifically named.
Yeah. But in terms of where the ship is when we actually end the episode, they've fallen out of, it was a mid-jump is what they said. It didn't complete, presumably because of Stamets just couldn't handle it after doing 133 jumps for the mission. And it seems to me like there's a good chance they've fallen into one of the pockets him and Lorca were looking at on the map, which is, a potentially another dimension. Most likely the mirror dimension, because that's what's been teased throughout the season.
Which also ties into this idea that that's not real Lorca, and maybe this other Lorca's trying to get home, because there is, if you look very quickly, when they go to do the jump, he messes around on his captain's chair and he brings up like a secret override, and you see all the previous jumps, and then before the next jump they're about to do, there's some protocol he initiates which is like a Lorca override, and nobody, we don't know what that is, but he seemed to trigger something before the jump. So it wasn't Stamets like not being able to take it, it's like he did something to the drive.
Yeah, that was to do with the final jump of the mission though, 133, not the one that,
right.
But there's no reason to say that still didn't, that still wasn't the effect of it,
and the dark energy pockets as well, that's quite an odd, that's an odd thing for him to suddenly go, oh yeah, by the way, I've been storing all this data about all these sort of things that potentially could lead to other universes, and you see Stamets going, oh my god, we could go to like other dimensions, and he's like, yeah, I just happened to keep it by, it's just side project,
What about the Klingon like wreckage that they found themselves in?
Well, yeah, I can't work out, because I was trying to look at it. It did look, I mean, you can't really see anything, but it looked ornate, like it had that sort of sarcophagus Ship of the Dead kind of feel to it. It didn't look more like some of the functional Birds of Prey or some of the other cruisers. So yeah, I mean, I wonder if they're like, one of the things I wonder is if this is going to establish that Discovery is not a prime universe Star Trek, so we could actually end up, this could be the Next Generation universe, or the well, that would be the same as the original generation, but something might happen and we might discover why the Klingons are different, why the ships are different, why, for example, the Discovery, which is 10 years before the Enterprise, has lovely touchscreens and floaty hollow displays, when the Enterprise has big clunky switches and levers. Maybe they will establish that this is a non-canon universe, and we'll see, I don't know, maybe there's a Klingon version of the Discovery that had the spore drive worked out, and we're seeing that. There was one person was pointing out maybe the Glenn didn't blow up, for example. Maybe the Glenn just swapped places with another Glenn that blew up, and the real Glenn could be somewhere else, which is that was a sister ship to Discovery.
I guess that's the thing with Mirror Universe, is that actually the possibilities are endless. I think it's a safe bet that's where they are. They'll probably spend the majority of the second half of the season there, trying to get back, probably fighting a lot of enemies. But we've got to wait until January 2018 to find out.
That's going to be a killer.
In
terms of Mirror Universe, just quickly, the Michelle Yeoh obviously was featured quite heavily in promotion and sort of leading up to it, and obviously was killed fairly quickly. Some people are wondering if there's going to be like an evil captain. I can't remember her name as a captain now.
Giorgio,
yeah. So some people are wondering if there's going to be an evil Captain Giorgio, because the same way with Tyler, there's a lot of people being featured heavily in promotion, sort of pre-promotion, that then weren't in the show. So you wonder if this second season's suddenly going to go ta-da, and then
return faces.
All hell's going to break loose, which would be amazing.
Anything's possible, I guess.
So those are the big questions for Star Trek's mid-season finale. Stay tuned to Games Radar Plus for more sci-fi news, previews, reviews and features.